It is a Saturday, and we are ready to go. It's 10 a.m., and that means game day right here on SportsGrid. College football today. I'm Donnie Rightside. He's Joe Lisi, and you know the drill. Over the next 2 hours, we will keep you updated on the biggest games of the day, the biggest players, the biggest prop bets, and the biggest information you need to know. I'm excited about today. Week 0, Joe, the appetizer. Week 1, filet mignon. Yeah.
3 top 25 battles. We have number 1 and number 2, Texas, Ohio State, a rematch of the college football playoff loss by the Longhorns and Quinn Ewers. Now it's Arch Manning's turn. Can they step up? They're right now 1.5-point underdogs to Ohio State, a team that's won 30 games over the last 10 seasons at home, 5 seasons, 2019 to 2024. And then the marquee battle later tonight. Which is the real Death Valley? Is it Clemson or is it LSU? And can Florida State make a statement against Alabama?
And a rivalry redone here that's going to take place on Sunday night. The University of Miami Hurricanes taking on Notre Dame. It is an awesome weekend that we're going to play this out. I can't wait for it to get started. But before you get there, Joe, Deion Sanders in the news in the offseason. How is he going to do without his boys on the team? Nobody at safety. Obviously, Shedeur Sanders, their quarterback. They're gone. Caden Salter steps in. Controversy at the end of that one, Joe.
Yeah, Deion Sanders blew that game, and he blew it from a clock.
Timeout, Joe. Get a timeout now.
He blew it from a clock management standpoint. I will say this, early observation, Colorado's offensive line, much improved. They had one of the worst rushing attacks in all of college football last year, averaging 2.4 yards per rush, 67 yards per game, but they were able to rush effectively, stay in manageable third downs. But you have a tie ball game. Haynes King breaks it open. His third touchdown of the game, he was over 100 yards. You're trailing by 7 points with 1:02 left and 2 timeouts in the clock. If Caden Salter's inexperienced and can't make that decision, as the head coach, you have to call a timeout and give your team a shot. Unfortunately, Hail Mary goes incomplete, and they lose and don't cover that ballgame.
Deion says they'll be all right. Well, we'll certainly find out. But also, you know what we're going to find out today? What a big-time battle we have. You look at the clock right now. It's 10:04 Eastern. At 12:04, we're already going to have kickoff at Ohio State. It's Texas and Ohio State, something we've been waiting for all offseason long, Joe. You look at the lines, they open up, give or take, a 3-point favorite here by Ohio State at home. It is swung all the way to Texas as a favorite. And by the way, bouncing back and forth now. Do I see this correctly? That Ohio State is now back as the favorite today?
Yeah, we saw big money. We saw somebody put in, $550,000 in Vegas on Texas.
Man.
That moved the line. All of a sudden, we saw late action come back in on the Buckeyes. I think when you look at this game, Donnie, it's going to come down to 2 factors. What does the offense look like now with Julian saying for Ohio State? And can that defense for the Buckeyes take off where they left off with Jim Knowles, a national championship caliber front, now with Matt Patricia going up against a Heisman frontrunner in Arch Manning? Can he produce? He's lost his top 2 wide receivers in Isaiah Bond and Matt Golden. Can this Texas offense step up? They were 6-2 and battle-tested on the road, but they lost this game and didn't cover because of Quinn Ewers last year.
Let's get the microscope out and go over this game handily, Joe. You look at the quarterback situation. Julian Sainz going to start for Ohio State, transfer in from Alabama. In the system, though, for a year. That certainly should help. Arch Manning, been in the system for a few years down under Sark in Texas. Give me the output, because obviously Arch Manning is the favorite to win the Heisman Trophy this year. If he plays well, he's probably going to win it. We'll see if he then comes out in the draft, which, Pop saying I shouldn't come out. I'm saying I might come out. You get the picture. But answer me this, Joe. A lot of pressure on Arch Manning, but Julian saying, what are the expectations for Ohio State after a national championship, handing it over to him?
Play clean and get the football to Jeremiah Smith. He's got Jeremiah Smith's total today is 77.5. He's the best offensive player on the field today. Utilize him and get the football. Do not throw the ball into double coverage, force turnovers. If you do that, you're going to put the Buckeyes defense at a disadvantage. I think when you look at this matchup, look at the running backs for Ohio State. If they can run the football effectively, that'll take the pressure off of Julian Sayin, and having home field advantage is huge, Donnie. You talk about Ohio State. They were 8-1 last year and won those games at home by an average margin of victory of 32.7 points per game. That's why you're seeing them as a 1.5-point favorite.
Now, let's look at the total in this game, Joe. Opening just a few weeks ago, let's just say, 50.5 to 51. I'm looking game day, 47.5, 46.5. 47s out there in the marketplace. What gives on that total, and why is it dropping? Because you look at both sides. Offense is not – Texas last year on offense, up and down the field. You take a look at Ohio State, up and down the field, national championship. Are the defenses this good, or are we just saying these quarterbacks have to get broken in as the true starters of the team.
Well, I think when you look at the perception is Texas has potentially the better defense in this matchup. But Ohio State brings back 6 starters, and they potentially have the best defensive player on the field in Caleb Downs. So the X factor is Matt Patricia. I will say when you look at the total, everybody's going to say it's going to be a lower scoring game, and Texas couldn't run the football in that matchup last year. Ohio State allowed 87 rushing yards per game, one of the top rush defenses in all of college football. But when you look at Texas, in 2 games they struggled in the college football playoff. Against Arizona State, they won but didn't cover. They averaged 1.7 yards per carry, only 2 yards per carry against the Buckeyes. That's the matchup. If they can run the football, that'll take the pressure off of Arch, and then they could have balanced, sustained drives. But again, I do feel we get through this 47.5 just because a big game, and you're going to have big plays by some of these playmakers.
Joe, talk to me about Ohio State. We talk so many times in the business about continuity and coming back, right? Like, who's going to be your quarterback? Well, Will Howard's off to the NFL. Also, at the same time, who is going to be your offensive and defensive coordinator? Chip Kelly's in the NFL now. Matt Patricia's your defensive coordinator. 2 different opposing viewpoints where it's like, okay, we were comfortable last year with this. Now we're not. Things are going to try new. You don't get the Samfords of the world to play in week number 1. How do we think in the OCDC works out today?
I think Matt Patricia, for the long season, we don't know what to expect. But having 6 months of preparation, I think, benefits Ohio State. And here's the other factor as well. You have 2 starters coming back in the defensive front 7. This is a team, like I mentioned, 87 rushing yards allowed. They held 9 opponents last year under 100 yards rushing.
Impressive.
And were 9-0 in those matchups and won, Donnie, by an average margin of victory of 30 points per game. The quickest way to adjust is getting that front 7 to take away the run, and then that puts the pressure on Arch Manning. But you have Caleb Downs in the backfield in the secondary. He's the captain and could really communicate with all of the defensive backs. That's the matchup. I still give the inside edge to Matt Patricia because they're at home. Everybody talks about the losses for Ohio State offensively. What about the losses offensively to Texas? Gunnar Helm, you look at Matt Golden and Isaiah Bond. I know they have more and some of the other playmakers coming back like Wingo, but that's more pressure going on the road against the defending national champs.
Yeah, again, I'm just more because I feel like I know a little bit more about Texas. Arch Manning, been hearing about him for a while. And it's like, okay, who's this new look Ohio State offense? New quarterback. Haven't really saw him last year. And then you take a look, Joe, in the backfield. Last year, you had Judkins and Henderson. I mean, 2 legitimate round 1/round 2 type running backs in the NFL go. Somebody else has to pick up the slack in that instance. But if you are looking at the wide receiver position, every year, Joe, Ohio State just rolls out 5-star after 5-star. Like, if you're Julian saying, this is a good spot to step into, no?
Yeah, absolutely. You have Jeremiah Smith, Cornell Tate, and you mentioned the running backs, right? James Peoples and C.J. Donaldson, that was one of the most productive from West Virginia.
Who's the lead dog today in that backfield? Because for me, handicapping, and maybe a lot of people out there watching, Joe, who's the lead dog for Ohio State in the backfield?
I took Donaldson because he's a bigger back. I believe he could be that home run hitter, has stepped up in huge performances for West Virginia throughout his career.
I like that, too. And also, Texas, a lot of changes there. The number 3 scoring D in the nation last year coming in. They'll be set on defense. But, again, you're looking at Wisner at running back. Kid's electric, man.
Absolutely. Yeah. When Texas runs the football, Donnie, they win ball games. That's going to be the matchup for Texas. If they can't run, that's going to put pressure on Arch. And how much do they utilize Arch in the RPO game now that he's the starter? He's not coming off the sidelines to benefit Quinn Ewers and give him a spell. He is the starter. You want to expose him in the RPO game today.
We are less than 2 hours away from kickoff in this unbelievable theater that we're just getting started right now in SportsGrid College Football today. Donnie Rightside, Joe Lisi, don't go anywhere because coming up next, we got big-time action in the real Death Valley. Oh, boy, stick around with me.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay.
I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip, try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Right back here, SportsGrid college football today. Donnie Rightside and Joe Lisi. We just got done talking about here Texas and Ohio State. And if you figure yourself, oh no, they're not going to be able to talk. We are going to hit that game multiple times. The biggest game of the day, Joe, and possibly the biggest game of the year. But we got more big action here in Death Valley, Joe. You know who that is? LSU. Is that Death Valley? Is it Clemson? Is that Death Valley? I feel like we got to have a belt today.
Yeah, that's
game.
it.
The real Death
Bring
Valley.
out the belt because we have a
Come on.
top 10 battle and a top 15 matchup between the Tigers. Which one is the real Tigers?
Yep.
Dabo Swinney and Clemson have been absolutely phenomenal. At home, 70-5 overall straight-up record dating back to 2015. That's a 933 winning percentage. They've been absolutely dominant. 2 losses, though, last year to Louisville and South Carolina did come at home.
Mm-hmm.
We have to see how they battle this out. I think when you look at this matchup, Donnie, the perception is that Clemson is better and more complete offensively and defensively, and I don't believe that to be the case. I do feel that LSU, from an offensive perspective, has the best wide receiver core on the field. That should benefit Garrett Nussmeier. But again, if you're going to attack Clemson, the 2 losses that I mentioned, South Carolina and Louisville, both of those teams were able to pound the rock and run the football. This is an offense in LSU that only averaged 115 yards on the ground. If Caden Durham and Caleb Jackson can have success, could be a long day for that Clemson Tiger defense.
So let's set the table for this one, too. At Clemson tonight, 7:30 p.m. kickoff, 219-220 on the rotation. If you're looking at the side itself, the 3.5s, they're gone. Oh, maybe it's coming back towards LSU. It's not. 4.5s and 4s out there in the betting landscape. DraftKings, BetMGM, Bet365, FanDuel. But look at the total, Joe. We just talked about a game in the shoe that goes from 50.5 and let's call it 47. We now see 56.5s to 57.5s here. Points are expected, it looks like, here today.
Absolutely. And when you talk about Cade Klubnik, 36 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, he's utilized as well in the RPO game. And this is an offense in Clemson that averaged 173 rushing yards per game. Is it the same offense, though, when we talk about dominant with the Deshaun Watson days and Trevor Lawrence? I don't believe that to be the case. I think they're a good offense. I don't believe they're an elite offense, and that could get exposed by the LSU Tigers' athleticism today. But again, Cade Klubnik is the X factor on the ground. If he could put pressure on LSU's edge, that can open up everything because LSU struggled with mobile quarterbacks last year. Marcel Reed, Jalen Milroe, they got exposed in one half as well by Jackson Dart. The key is to contain Cade Klubnik on the ground.
Now here, let's start with LSU, and I'm going to go with Garrett Nussmeier. Obviously, in that Heisman race, we expect certainly big things out of him. But understand this. Are we concerned about, Joe, any injury information? Is he banged up coming to this game, or is that just something that we're reading here?
No, it was a misread. For everybody I talked to in LSU, he's 100% healthy. I don't think it's a factor at all. And when you look at his prop market right now, 290.5, I mean, the market and the books are expecting him to be at least right on his average of 315 passing yards per game. it does come down to the rushing attack. But I mentioned those playmakers for LSU. It's not just Aaron Anderson, and Aaron Anderson is the leading returner for that Tigers wide receiver core. But you bring in Nick Anderson, you have Tre'Davious White, you also have Barry and Brown that transfers in from Kentucky, Braun, the tight end from Oklahoma. You have the ability to have running backs like Caleb Jackson and Caden Durham coming out of the backfield. They can attack and stress that defense at every single level. And that's why I'm completely confused that people believe that Clemson is the more superior offense. I just don't see that being the case.
Joe, I'm not a big trend guy. And what I mean by is, last 6 times that LSU went on the road, they didn't cover the spread. I don't care. There are different circumstances every single year. But understand this. Getting out of the gate at LSU has been somewhat of a struggle. And what I mean by that is winning football games to start your season 1-0. We talk about it with the Bengals in the NFL all the time, Joe. Get out to a hot start, it means something. Is there more pressure on LSU today to get this win? Because why? Brian Kelly can't afford to even look. It's a good football game, a top 10 opponent. It seems like he can't afford a loss here.
No, he can't. Yeah, and I said this. I was very high on Brian Kelly being the guy to take over for Ed Orgeron. Ed Orgeron and that team plateaued to a certain capacity. Brian Kelly, one of the best game planners in the game. But you win the SEC West in your first year. You go 9-3 with Jaden Daniels your second year, and then all of a sudden, now look at where we are with Garrett Nussmeier, an 8-4 campaign, and they were trending at one point to potentially be a college football playoff contender. You can't lose on the road to teams like Florida and more importantly, Ole Miss, like you did a couple of years ago. You have to step up. And here's the thing as well, Donnie, when we look at this team, 3 straight for Brian Kelly neutral sites, 2 at Florida State and USC. What happened in all 3 of those games? They got out to a very quick first half. It's been the halftime adjustments for LSU that this staff has failed to make and why they've lost 3 straight. If they get out to a quick start tonight and have a lead, can Brian Kelly and Blake Baker make the necessary adjustments to close the door?
I got to tell you, Joe, I'm really excited about this Clemson team coming in because me personally, like Cade Klubnik came in with a lot of fanfare, and it's starting to sort of hold up. Last year, Joe, 36 touchdown passes, only 6 interceptions. Oh, wait, he's going to lose guys. He is stacked at the wide receiver position today. I mean, you're talking about Williams, Wesco at there. You lose Maffa in the backfield, 8 starters back on offense. This team, regardless of who they're playing, SEC opponent or non-SEC opponent, this is probably as good as it gets in college football offensive-wise. I love Clemson.
It's the best wide receiver core they have had. Now, are they as good as the days of Justin Ross, Mike Williams, Sammy Watkins? That's what we're comparing them to because when you look at Clemson, I mentioned they average 173 rushing yards per game. It sounds like it's a lot. But when you look at the national championship years with Deshaun Watson and Travis Etienne and Trevor Lawrence, they averaged 240 rushing yards per game and were throwing in the area of 240. Now they're in the area of about 230 per game passing and 173. So that's where they have to get up to, I believe, to be a dominant team. And the other factor, too, is their defense. They weren't good in run support last year. They need to be better, not just to win this game against LSU, but to make a national championship run.
Yeah, and also when you look at Clemson, for me, they are the best team in the ACC. Me, I'm a Miami Hurricanes fan. We'll get to them playing Notre Dame in just a little bit. But Clemson loses this game or not really a huge effect on the ACC because it is a out-of-conference opponent. But if we're just looking, Joe, nationally, this is a big game. I just feel like the expectations are favorite, supposed to win Clemson. But I think like LSU can get that tailwind. If they can go into Death Valley, this Death Valley, as I like to say, Clemson, South Carolina, and get this win, sky's the limit for LSU, no?
15-1 to win a natty at the start of the year. They were plus 136 to make the college football playoff. Right now, they were in the area of about $1.14 to make the college football playoff. Their win total was 8.5. They have to get to 9-10 wins, and I agree with you from the Heisman market. Whoever wins today, and if they win decisively, they're not, both of those quarterbacks aren't going to be at 9-1.
When you like quarterbacks, when you like wide receivers, that's why we're getting a total here sitting in the mid-50s. We should get action tonight from Clemson, South Carolina. That kickoff's going to be at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, and a 4.5-point favorite currently for the Clemson Tigers. Before we get started today, rolling in hour number 1. It's Joe Lisi, Donnie, Rightside. We'll be right back.
Alabama, Florida State, years Georgia opened with Clemson, and then Oregon and LSU and Les Miles opened with Oregon and smacked them around. Alabama knocked around USC and Wisconsin and Va-Tech for years. The SEC fears nobody.
Stop it. I love the SEC. Put them on. By the way, if we just had an only SEC college football playoff show, it would be absolutely wonderful. How about that out there, SEC backers?
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
So the Mets, they went through a rough stretch where they were terrible, but, they win the series versus the Mariners. They're kind of turning things around just a little bit. Like, the offense has been there. You said they were in a playoff race. It's tough to say, they need to win. It's like trying to trust teams in different sports at the end of the season. But the hitters are hitting right now. Lean into the Mets, lean into the Phillies. These teams have something to play for, and they're cooking right now.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
I think what you saw last year is it's tough to say, it's projectable, but I do think it's something that when you're taking shots here, you're looking for a bye-week coverage wide receiver on your roster or a guy that has upside who's young enough to grow into more of a role. I think the development of Bo Nix was stunningly good last year. If we can build on that again this year, I think Marvin Mims is a really good selection as the 57th wide receiver off the board.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
What does he do after he hits the home run? He walks over to the fan and he pats him on the back and gives him a high five. This is the same fan that's been going after him for the entire game. Dave Roberts after the game saying, hey, look, every once in a while, it's kind of funny to see Shohei, who's got this wonderful personality that we almost never see. It was great to see him do that with the fans.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid College Football Today. Not week 0, people. Week number 1. The appetizer out the window. The filet mignon is on the table. It's Donnie Rightside, and it's Joe Lisi. My goodness, Joe. You would have said maybe, let's go 10 years ago, the Jameis Winston version going up against Nick Saban's Alabama. Ooh, we got a good one here. And we might. But look at the point spread today. Alabama Crimson Tide on the road at Doak Campbell. Laying 14, Joe. Explain it.
2-10, Donnie. The only FBS team that Florida State beat last year was Cal, and they beat them by a hair. I bet that game. I barely covered. I was saying prayers throughout that game. They blocked the field goal from Fernando Mendoza and Jaden Knott. That offense was cooking in the fourth quarter. But when you look at Florida State, you talk about a complete 360. You go 13-0 in the regular season, and you and I could debate they should have been in the college football.
They were a bad football team.
Stop.
They should have been. Georgia showed
Not aside. They covered every game, even with backup Tate Rodemaker in 2023. But 2-10 last year. They fell off a cliff. I talked to Coach Bowden. Okay. We agree. This team quit. After you go to Haynes King and you play out there in Ireland and you lose 24-21 with DJU and this team, they come back, they lose to Thomas Castellanos and Boston College as a 14.5-point home favorite. They tossed it in. The kids quit. They averaged 89 rushing yards per game last year. They gave up a ton in run support, and the only other team that they beat outside of Cal was an FCS opponent in the month of November. That's absolutely pathetic if you're Mike Norvell. You need to find a way, I don't care what you do, to cover this 13.5-point number. Otherwise, he's going to be on the hot seat.
Yeah, we're 13.5 at FanDuel, 14 at DraftKings, 14 at BetMGM, 14 at Bet365, and then out there in Vegas, really the prevailing number, Joe, is -14. So a 2-touchdown favorite for Alabama on the road. Let's start with Alabama. Joe, what am I getting out of the quarterback position this year? Jalen Milroe's off to the NFL. We get that. Ty Simpson is there, a recruit that you expected big things from. Maybe it turns out you have a great wide receiver court. No Jam Miller today. We'll get to all of that. But give me the quarterback position and the expectations this year outside of Jalen Milroe not being back.
Well, Ty Simpson, I think, is a better pocket passer and potentially fits the passing philosophy of Kalen DeBoer and what Alabama wants to do. You talk about Ty Simpson last year, limited action, 56% completion percentage, 167 passing yards. He did rush 8 times for 55 yards and a touchdown. But that's where you go and you say, okay, Ty Simpson's a better passer than Jalen Milroe. Is he a better runner? Because Jalen Milroe last year, Donnie, had 20 rushing touchdowns. When we talk about the 2 big games for Alabama, I go to 2. I go to 1 against Georgia earlier in the year. Jalen Milroe abused that front 7 and had 4 rushing touchdowns in the first half of that game. And then I go to the blowout road victory over LSU and Brian Kelly. Jalen Milroe, again, over 100 yards. Are we going to get that type of performance out of Ty Simpson? I don't see it.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean they can't win this game, but they struggled on the road last year. 2-4 on the road or on a neutral field site, and they lost those games, Donnie, by an average margin of defeat of 9.6 points per game. It's supposed to be a wet track today with some bad weather. I think Alabama certainly wins this game, but I'm taking the points with Florida State.
Yeah, if we're also DeBoer and Grubb back together here in Tuscaloosa, is that going to make a big difference on the offense? Because the one thing that we know, they work some magic in Washington, Joe. Now back together here, opening day. It's always tough to sort of gauge what you're getting if it's a returning quarterback. We don't necessarily have that from a starting perspective. But Simpson's not just, hey, I'm 17 years old. I just got here on campus. Let me start. We should get some pretty good statistics here from
You
today.
should, because they averaged 236 through the air last year. And if we're talking Michael Penix Washington days, we know that the Huskies threw it for 330 yards per game. At one point in the regular season, Michael Penix, when he challenged Bo Nix, was in the area of about 340 passing yards per game. So if we believe we're going to have progression with Ty Simpson, maybe we have Alabama average this year 280. That would be a step up, but they still want to run the football and look for them to try and manhandle a defense in Florida State that gave up $184 on the ground.
Joe, this is one of those games where I probably look at and say, well, Jam Miller's my back, but he's not going to be there. We don't know when he's returning for Alabama, but expected back hopefully in the month of September. I asked you the question before in another game. Who's the lead dog at Alabama? Like, if I'm betting a running back today, who am I betting?
It's tough because I would say running back by committee right now. And again, you want to take the sure thing. And again, if we get a cheap number on Ty Simpson today, if his number's in the area of like 24.5, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Can he blow through that? And could he be the leading rusher? Because, again, are they going to just go 5 wide and go back to where they were in Washington, or are they going to be more methodical? That's why I can't back the running backs today.
Take a look again at the point spread in this game. At Florida State, it's Doak Campbell, 3:30 start this afternoon. Roughly a 14-point spread here as a favorite for the Alabama Crimson Tide. We look at that total number, Joe. 50.5's in the landscape. That's now gone. I got 48.5 at just about every sports books that we're looking at here. Do you agree quickly here with the line drop on the total?
Yes, because if there's bad weather, I believe the only way Florida State can keep this game competitive is a lower scoring game, 21-17, 24-17. If this game gets into the 50s or 60s, they're going to get blown out.
We're going to talk next about Notre Dame and Miami and Florida, but also before we get there, I just want to talk about that Florida State offense with you and then the quarterback and how that projects. We're right back today. Sports College Football.
Alabama, Florida State, years Georgia opened with Clemson, and then Oregon and LSU and Les Miles opened with Oregon and smacked them around. Alabama knocked around USC and Wisconsin and Vatech for years. The SEC fears nobody.
Stop it. I love the SEC. Put them on. By the way, if you just had an only SEC college football playoff show, it would be absolutely wonderful. How about that out there, SEC backers?
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
So the Mets, they went through a rough stretch where they were terrible, but, they win the series versus the Mariners. They're kind of turning things around just a little bit. Like, the offense has been there. You said they were in a playoff race. It's tough to say, like, oh, they need to win. It's like trying to trust teams in different sports at the end of the season. But the hitters are hitting right now. Lean into the Mets, lean into the Phillies. These teams have something to play for, and they're cooking right now.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
I think what you saw last year is it's tough to say, oh, it's projectable, but I do think it's something that when you're taking shots here, you're looking for a bye week coverage wide receiver on your roster or a guy that has upside who's young enough to grow into more of a role. I think the development of Bo Nix was stunningly good last year. If we can build on that again this year, I think Marvin Mims is a really good selection as the 57th wide receiver off the board.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
What does he do after he hits the home run? He walks over to the fan and he pats him on the back and gives him a high five. This is the same fan that's been going after him for the entire game. Dave Roberts after the game saying, hey, look, every once in a while, it's kind of funny to see Shohei, who's got this wonderful personality that we almost never see. It was great to see him do that with the fans.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid College Football Today. It's Donnie Rightside. It's Joe Lisi here. The biggest games. We got it, man. We have such good games today, certainly flowing through it. It feels quick, too. Like, we've been on the air, Joe, 32 minutes right now. Feels like 5 minutes.
Flying.
We have good information and a lot of fun. That's what you want to see, people. But before we jump to the next game, which is actually tomorrow night, that's the Notre Dame Fighting Irish and the Miami Hurricanes. I got to ask you, Joe Lisi, because FSU always in my, target range. I love to pick on them. You don't have much coming back in the way of offense we've been here, done that for years and years and years, and we're starting at Florida State. Tommy Castellanos coming over from Boston College. Talks a big game. This is a big game. Do we get a big game out of Tommy?
He better, because if he doesn't have a big game, they're not going to win or potentially cover this 13.5-point number. You have to back it up. Now, he did knock off Florida State as a member of Boston College last year. 18 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Lost his job, though, in the middle of the regular season to Grayson James, that I thought was a better pocket passer than Castellanos. The problem is, can he make some plays with new offensive coordinator Gus Malzahn being the OC, right? We saw Gus Malzahn take over UCF, couldn't bring that program back to superiority, and now comes to Florida State, hopefully with tempo, and really could get the most out of Thomas Castellanos. Bill O'Brien couldn't do that. Wardell Williams is still there. He had a very disappointing year last year. The offensive line broke down. I told you, only 89 rushing yards per game. How much of that, though, is the big question is the incompetency last year of DJU and how bad he was in the passing game, or was it from a play call perspective? We'll find out right here, because, again, you've had 6 months of preparation. I expect a better effort. Maybe we go Castellanos to hit pay dirt today.
And let me ask you one quick, final topic on this game. We're going to hit this game ad nauseum even more in hour number 2, Joe. But understand this. Florida State's got a storied career. They really do as a university and a great football institution. Are the fans excited for this game? You know they will be. Are the players? Absolutely. But they are getting 2 touchdowns today, Joe, after a terrible season. Sometimes you can look at a game like this as a moral victory if you hang close. But give me the results, Joe. 35-7 Alabama today. What are they talking about at Florida State? Is it over? Are we talking about we got to get the Board of Regents together to get a buyout package together?
I brought this up to Coach Bowden throughout the week, and he said it's going to take a lot because it is a huge buyout. And Florida State at times has been, I want to say, hesitant to do that. Certainly they did it with Bobby Bowden at the end of his career. But, again, you're talking about a team that last won a national championship in 2013. You see schools like Miami now getting better recruiting, getting better head coaches, challenging at least for potentially a college football playoff appearance. Louisville that made it to an ACC championship. SMU. I mean, if you're Florida State, you can't win 2 games, Donnie. You have to find a way to close the gap. Now, Terry and I both agree, you're not going to get there in this year with 13-0 again. But if you got to get back to bowl eligibility, 7-8 wins, and then hope that in 2026 you can make the next step.
Yeah, for the majority of the Bobby Bowden era at Florida State, it was you got 2 teams in a national championship picture to run the table and go undefeated. Florida State was constantly in the top 5 in my childhood here, and we'll see if they can get back to that. But also, talking about my childhood, Notre Dame and Miami. You are looking live at the Orange Bowl or Notre Dame Stadium. I mean, this is one of the best rivalries we saw in the 1980s, early 1990s, that Lou Holtz and Jimmy Johnson, and we want to fight, and there's 30 for 30s, and legendary players and legendary football games. I don't know if we're going to get that tomorrow night, but my goodness, I'd love to see a standalone Sunday night college football game, Miami and Notre Dame, Joe.
Oh, it doesn't get better than this. I mean, back in the day with the Catholics versus the convicts, unbelievable. Now, they haven't beaten Miami, what is it, the last 6 times? Obviously, when you look at Mark Richt and that team that were able to knock them off in just dramatic fashion. Here's the thing for Notre Dame. Last year, they weren't just a good team. They were a great team on the road or on a neutral field, right? They were 8-1 in terms of those spots. Why is that important? Because they stepped up when the stage got bigger, especially against back-to-back games against Georgia and Penn State, respectively. They beat 5 opponents, Donnie, on a neutral field.
Yeah.
Penn State, Georgia, Army, Navy, and Georgia Tech. They won those road contests, including a road matchup week 1 against Texas A&M, by an average margin of victory of 23.6 points per game. They dominated.
Wow.
They held 10 opponents last year under 200 yards passing. Well, we know that Miami wants to throw it, right? They were 9-1 in those games and won by an average margin of not 23 points per game, but 33.6 points per game. What travels well in road environments? Defense and running the football, and that's what Notre Dame has in this matchup.
Even in the 80s and 90s, Temple would come to town and play Miami in the Orange Bowl as the number one team in the country. And Temple and Miami would have maybe, 25,000 people in the stadium for a number one team. Miami gets up for big events. This is a big event. It's going to be a spectacle tomorrow night in South Florida. If we line the game up, Joe, minus 2.5-point favorite that came out, we're still sitting at minus 2.5. There are threes now in the betting landscape, which means Notre Dame is a favorite. You look at the total, 53.5, Joe, that's dropping to 50.5. So let's start here at the quarterback position. We'll go Fighting Irish here. C.J. Carr, freshman, huge environment. Game number one. When I look at the NFL, Joe, some really accomplished quarterbacks come in there and are first-round draft picks. Just like we saw last year at Miami, he heads over to the Tennessee Titans. You don't make money on rookie quarterbacks. In college football, in this environment, how do a rookie quarterback stand up to that?
Well, again, the unknown. That's the biggest thing. And I've said this with the breakdown. You have 4 starters coming back for Miami. Not coming back, but that have transferred in. You have a new defensive coordinator. And even though they might be experienced to a degree, do they gel as a unit? That's the biggest thing. So that's where C.J. Carr can have success. His total is 186.5 passing yards, right? So I always say this, inexperienced secondaries in week number 1 is where the potential is for potentially a quarterback to expose them to some capacity. Top 10 matchup, you play ball communication, safeties to corners, and does Notre Dame mix it up from a formation perspective to give C.J. Carr an advantage in this matchup? Because you got to believe that Miami's going to take away the run first. That's what Jeremiah Love and that offense do better than anybody. They average 180 rushing yards per game. So they're going to play run first. That's where on play action, maybe C.J. Carr could blow through this number. I like Notre Dame a lot in this game, and I do believe that C.J. Carr could blow through his number in this matchup.
It just feels like to me, Joe, when you take a look at the game script, you see the total opened up a little bit higher, it's dropping a little bit. Doesn't feel like this is a Jeremiah Love game because you have a young quarterback here. You're on the road. It's going to be a hostile environment. And I got to tell you, from last year, just betting individual props, Jeremiah Love, damn near every single week made my card. He's a touchdown machine. He scores out of the backfield if you throw him a pass. He can hit those long home runs. He can score on the goal line. Tell me about Jeremiah Love and how he factors into today's game versus Miami.
Could be a Heisman Trophy candidate. We talk about top 25 battles. We talk about, 2,000 potential yard rushers. Jonathan Taylor in the Heisman race 5 years ago came in third, right? Last 2,000-yard rusher. He rushed for 1,100 yards plus last year. Basically almost 6 yards per carry when he touched the rock at the end of the regular season. 13 rushing touchdowns. And, oh, by the way, every time Notre Dame rushes for over 200, last year they were undefeated, 8-0, and won those matchups by an average margin of victory. I keep going through these numbers. 35.2 points per game. The rushing attack will be critical to Notre Dame winning this game.
How about those Miami Hurricanes here? Spent a little bit of money in the transfer portal. Carson Beck goes from Georgia to Miami, similar to what we saw last year with Cam Ward coming to town. A lot of success. Sent him off to being the number 1 pick. Expectations, Joe, for today and this season for Carson Beck.
He better step up and really elevate that team. Is it going to be the Carson Beck that we had 2 years ago at Georgia, where he threw 24 touchdowns and 3 interceptions? Or is it going to be the Carson Beck that threw for $175 and 3 interceptions against Texas and $188 and 1 interception against Ole Miss? Which one you getting, Donnie?
I think we might get the one that got dumped by the Cavender twins. How about that? Motivation, Joe? Would they be in the stands, by the way, for this game?
Probably not.
Come on now. Miami, Notre Dame, South Beach. It doesn't get any better than that. It's not even a game today, Joe. But again, talking about a Sunday night football game, you're winding the weekend down, or essentially probably just ramping it up on Labor Day weekend. You got the day off Monday. That is going to be phenomenal atmosphere. Sold out down there, ready to rock and roll. I'm not sold on C.J. Carr. But by the way, if C.J. Carr goes down there, lights up the Hurricanes, this is going to be like this. Man, it's going to be a long season for those Canes.
Donnie, you think the U is back. Every fan thinks the U is back. 2 double-digit winning seasons dating back to 2003. One came with Rick in 2017. The other came last year. And you still couldn't make the college football playoff because your defense fell apart against Georgia Tech and Syracuse.
Yeah, the downfall of the Miami Hurricanes was a name change from Malik Rozier to Malik Rozier. Threw everything off. Do you remember that game? Was it Pitt? He couldn't hit the broadside out of a barn in that game. My goodness, Mark Rick, get it together. Maybe Mark Rick will be in the stands down there having some fun, cheering on those Miami Hurricanes. You know the athletes will be out there and the superstars.
Absolutely.
You know what else? We got our own superstar coming up next. Mr. Bowden. Hey, get ready, Joe. You know this guy, don't you? We'll be right back.
Alabama, Florida State, years Georgia opened with Clemson, and then Oregon and LSU and Les Miles opened with Oregon and smacked them around. Alabama knocked around USC and Wisconsin and Va-Tech for years. The SEC fears nobody.
Stop it. I love the SEC. Put them on. By the way, if we just had an only SEC college football playoff show, it would be absolutely wonderful. How about that out there, SEC backers?
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
So the Mets, they went through a rough stretch where they were terrible, but, they win the series versus the Mariners. They're kind of turning things around just a little bit. Like, the offense has been there. You said they were in a playoff race. It's tough to say, they need to win. It's like trying to trust teams in different sports at the end of the season. But the hitters are hitting right now. Lean into the Mets, lean into the Phillies. These teams have something to play for, and they're cooking right now.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
I think what you saw last year is it's tough to say, it's projectable, but I do think it's something that when you're taking shots here, you're looking for a bye week coverage wide receiver on your roster or a guy that has upside who's young enough to grow into more of a role. I think the development of Bo Nix was stunningly good last year. If we can build on that again this year, I think Marvin Mims is a really good selection as the 57th wide receiver off the board.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
What does he do after he hits the home run? He walks over to the fan and he pats him on the back and gives him a high five. This is the same fan that's been going after him for the entire game. Dave Roberts after the game saying, hey, look, every once in a while, it's kind of funny to see Shohei, who's got this wonderful personality that we almost never see. It was great to see him do that with the fans.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid College Football Today, week number 1 action. Your day is just about to get a little bit better. Why is that? It's Donnie Rightside and it's Joe Lisi. We welcome in one of the best coaches you could talk to on a Saturday to get your team ready. It's Coach Terry Bowden. Coach, love to have you on. The excitement for week number 1. Thank you for joining us today.
I appreciate it. I'm in Tallahassee, Florida, getting ready to go down to Bobby Bowden Field in a couple of hours to see if the Noles can play it all with their opponent today, Alabama. That'll be a good one. But we got a good one right before that, just a little bit of while, Ohio State and Texas.
Love it. Coach Bowden with us. You can catch him here on the SportsGrid Network on the Bowden Blitz with Joe Lisi here. And by the way, some rumors down there. Are you down there maybe just in case there's a buyout in place where you can take control of Florida State? I'm just hearing rumors. I'm just hearing them.
Hey, I don't think I'm going to buy it here, but Auburn claimed a national championship for my 99-3 team. I went back and looked at my contract. I got a big bonus for winning a championship. I got to make sure I make that call.
Congrats, Coach. National championship and former National Coach of the Year. Doesn't get better than that. Talk to me about Thomas Castellanos. You and I have broken it down. He's done a lot of talking in the offseason. Can he actually make an impact in this matchup going up against a top-ranked defense?
He's got to make an impact today and the rest of the season. And it's the meshing of Gus Malzahn, the offensive coordinator, and Tommy Castellanos from Boston College transfer. He is a dual threat that can run and throw. And when you put him with Gus Malzahn, you've got a chance to have a dynamic offense. And that's exactly what they must have to play this more talented Alabama team and Alabama defense. They have got to be able to run the football and then throw it when they want to. And that's going to be a key for this game today and keep them close.
Coach Brown live on location today at Florida State. But, Coach, there are some monster games across the sports betting landscape today, and maybe none bigger than Texas and Ohio State. Love that we get to talk to you because two things I want to ask you. Obviously, how you think that game plays out, but also as a coach. Did you prefer playing the early games, or did you like the big-time, prime-time matchups where you had all day to stew over it?
No. If back we're Central Time at Auburn, we played at 11 a.m. a lot of times.
Wow.
We want
Yeah.
the early game so we can actually have an afternoon with not having to worry about football. So we actually go home. When you play at 7, you sit in that hotel room all day long, and all you do is worry. All you do is think about things you can't control. So love an early game, love to get it over with. But when there's time to need publicity, you give me those primetime games from 3:30 to 7. They're the big ones that you like being on when you're playing your big boys. And this one is a big boy being played in about an hour or two.
Coach, when you look at top-ranked Texas, now they're underdogs. Do you believe they're deserving of the top-ranked overall ranking? And more importantly, can Arch Manning now step up and really just erase all the critics in this matchup?
Arch is kind of he's been so publicized. We compare him so much with Eli, with Peyton, with his grandfather, Archie Manning. We expect so much out of him. I've said all along, if he just plays solid, if he's just a very good quarterback this year, they've got enough talent to win the national championship. But they're playing an opening season with one team that's even got a little more talent, and that's Ohio State. And I really think Ohio State, when it comes down to it, the quarterback doesn't have a ton of experience, but you got to give a little bit of quarterback credit to Texas. But overall talent, defending national champion, playing in the shoe. And I played in the shoe. That's a hard place to win. I've got to take those 1.5. I got to go with Ohio State to win this game.
How about that, Coach? We take a look also at a big game environment tonight. LSU going to take on Clemson. You're no stranger to hammering LSU at this point, Coach, because in 1993, you went to LSU. 34-10 victory for the Auburn Tigers. So you have the keys to the castle, as we like to say. What happens tonight between LSU and Clemson? What a game, the battle of the Death Valleys.
Yeah, I had success at that Death Valley. This other Death Valley is pretty tough, too. I was an analyst up there a couple of years ago for 2 years, and they never lost the end time I was there at home. It's an incredible environment there for home field advantage, and that's going to be a factor. These two teams are they mirror each other. They both have quarterbacks that can win the Heisman, that can get drafted in the first round. They've got much improved teams. They've got outstanding defensive coordinators that they've added at Blake Baker at LSU, and now Tom Allen at Clemson. So they have improved defenses. They've got great quarterbacks. You look at all the advantage, just a little bit of advantage to me goes to Clemson. I said, boy, the quarterback's just a little bit better. The overall depth is better. The home field is advantage a little bit better. But when that point spread went to 4, I got to take LSU plus 4 points. I think that's the thing. I can see them losing the game, but much more like a field goal. Once it went to 4, I had to jump over and say that's the one I want to win this game.
Coach, from the coaching perspective, what can Brian Kelly and LSU do not to just cover the line, but potentially win this ball game outright?
Joe, and we've talked about this a lot this year. All these outstanding quarterbacks, if you want to make them better, make them a factor, run the football. We saw a couple of games last night, Georgia Tech. We saw them play. We saw the other game that we watched where the running was Auburn. Running makes the quarterback better. Running gives him a chance to hurt people when they are worried about the run. To me, the key to this game and the key to making Nussmeier even a better quarterback is what they didn't do last year. When you can't run the ball, you throw it on 3rd and long, or you throw it a bunch in the second half. As it happened to LSU last year, it turns into turnovers and mistakes. It's all about being balanced, but LSU has a chance to be balanced. I think the offensive line probably goes to Clemson over LSU. They lost their tackles, but I do think running game is key for Nussmeier to have the game that can win this game.
Talking to Terry Bowden, your longtime great head coach in college football, multiple institutions, which is the perfect person to ask. Coach, did you prefer, because we're talking about week number 1, a lot of these schools with big-time matchups. Did you like the big-time matchup out of the gate, or did you prefer maybe a team that you can handle just to get a good view of your team before you said, okay, the big boys are coming next week?
It all depends on whether you ask me that question in August or in December, or February, because way back there you say, gosh, I'll take the biggest and the best. But about a month before that season opens, you want somebody that you can make mistakes and win the ball game. You just want somebody to see what you're going to look like. So I think most coaches, whether they say it publicly, they would rather play somebody that they can handle pretty well if they play well and then feel like what kind of team they got. But if you got a biggie like this one, It prepares you the entire offseason. It gets your players' attention. We'll see, I believe, the best of these two football teams.
Absolutely love it. We're talking to Terry Bowden here. So much fun to have you on, Coach. Week number 1 action. By the way, Coach is down in Tallahassee today for a big day for the Bowden family. Was it right, Coach? About 50 family members down there with you?
There's about 50. My mother's 93rd birthday. We're going to eat some barbecue down here from Sonny's Barbecue. Then I'm heading over to the stadium.
I love it, Coach. Thanks for joining us again. We're going to have Coach Bowden all season long. Fantastic stuff. Enjoy your day, Coach, down in Tallahassee. We got more big games to take a look at, more big players to talk about, and more prop bets to get to. It's SportsGrid, college football today, right here on the SportsGrid Network. It's Donnie Rightside. It's Joe Lisi. And once again, thanking Coach Bowden for joining us today. Big day, people. Feels like we're just getting started. And we'll be right back after this short break.
Alabama, Florida State, years Georgia opened with Clemson, and then Oregon and LSU and Les Miles opened with Oregon and smacked them around. Alabama knocked around USC and Wisconsin and Va-Tech for years. The SEC fears nobody.
Stop it. I love the SEC. Put them on. By the way, if we just had an only SEC college football playoff show, it would be absolutely wonderful. How about that out there, SEC backers?
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
So the Mets, they went through a rough stretch where they were terrible, but, they win the series versus the Mariners. They're kind of turning things around just a little bit. Like, the offense has been there. You said they were in a playoff race. It's tough to say, they need to win. It's like trying to trust teams in different sports at the end of the season. But the hitters are hitting right now. Lean into the Mets, lean into the Phillies. These teams have something to play for, and they're cooking right now.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
I think what you saw last year is it's tough to say, it's projectable, but I do think it's something that when you're taking shots here, you're looking for a bye week coverage wide receiver on your roster or a guy that has upside who's young enough to grow into more of a role. I think the development of Bo Nix was stunningly good last year. If we can build on that again this year, I think Marvin Mims is a really good selection as the 57th wide receiver off the board.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
What does he do after he hits the home run? He walks over to the fan and he pats him on the back and gives him a high five. This is the same fan that's been going after him for the entire game. Dave Roberts after the game saying, hey, look, every once in a while, it's kind of funny to see Shohei, who's got this wonderful personality that we almost never see. It was great to see him do that with the fans.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
No better place to be than SportsGrid, college football today, right here on the SportsGrid Network. Joe, Lisi, Donnie, Rightside for the entire season, Joe, on Saturday. This is your place. This is your place to be, Joe.
I love it. I tell you, and it's flying. Show's flying. We're on an hour already. I can't wait. We're licking our chops for these Rat Pack games. And it's a great slate.
Look at you on the screen right now.
Like a little rat.
He's got a lot of money next to him, by the way. I mean,
hopefully
does that mean he had Georgia Tech last night, that rat, do you think?
No, I did have Colorado, but the one that...
Who'd the rat have? Not you.
Well, the rat probably did have Georgia Tech.
Oh, he faded. He probably gets
I was on the over, though, Auburn-Baylor. That game flew right through the total last night.
You ready for the Rat Pack? You ready to get after it? We got a couple games here as we have in the bottom of the hour to get you set up here. How about this one, Joe? 191, 192 on the rotation. A 12:45 start. It's going to take place during the big game at the Shoe. A 10-point favorite for the Kentucky Wildcats going up against Toledo of the MAC.
Yeah, disappointing season for Kentucky and Mark Stoops. They got abused by South Carolina earlier in the year and didn't recover. Toledo, one of the best teams in the MAC. And we saw the MAC step up, right? Thursday night, cover those games. We saw Western Michigan cover last night against Michigan State. So now I think this is a hot play by a lot of cappers here.
Ooh.
It is. Wow, everybody loves the Toledo Rockets. I will say Texas A&M former quarterback Zach Calzada will get the start for Kentucky. This is a bounce-back spot to make a statement. They still bring back 3 starters on the offensive line. We know Kentucky's very physical in the interior. It's a bounce-back spot for me, for Mark Stoops. Line to open up basically 7.5s in the offseason. It's now up to 9.5s, 10s. I'm going to roll with Kentucky. I think they pound them in Lexington.
How about the Chanticleers going on the road to take on the Virginia Cavaliers? I believe it's Matt Shaw, Wally Lundy in the backfield for Virginia. What do we got today? Virginia Coastal, come on.
Yeah, so Virginia lost their quarterback, Calandria. He transferred out. But they get in Chandler Morris, the former North Texas and TCU quarterback. He can chuck it. You know, this line opened up at 11.5. We're seeing, I believe, 13.5 in the market right now. I would take the points now. Now that we've had adjustment from 11.5 to 13.5, I would take the points with Coastal. What I do find intriguing, 60.5 for a Virginia game, typically to me, is high. I think we blow through the total. I actually like points aplenty here.
How about that? I want to talk about points aplenty here. And this deals with Penn State. I'm telling you right now, there's no better coach in the country that can go to his alumni and say, I got you on this big spread today. We're going to run it up under the guise of, well, these guys deserve to play as well, so why am I going to stop the game plan for them? The reason I'm talking about this, Nevada comes to town to take on Penn State in-state college. 59.5 was the total at the opening number, Joe. It's down to 53.5 at a lot of outlets. But look at this price point. Minus 42.5 is a favorite with a 53.5 total. Penn State here, do they get the total and the cover by themselves, Joe?
I think they get the cover, meaning laying the 42.5. Here's the thing. I think they get the total, and here's why.
Do they get the cover and the game doesn't go over?
That would be shot. No, I'll tell you why. I think Nevada could potentially at least put up points to get them through the total. I like the total more than I like Penn State. Penn State out of conference, Donnie, against straight-up opponents, right, out of conference, dating back for the last 8 or 9 seasons, 44-7 straight up against non-conference Big Ten opponents, right? They won their games last year by an average margin of victory of 26 points per game. We saw them struggle in critical spots. We saw them struggle against Bowling Green. They were laying 34.5, and they were trailing at half. Jim Knowles comes over from Ohio State, but again, it's a new scheme. You know, we always talk about coordinators, even though the talent's there. What if there's a broken coverage? Yeah. I'm worried about the total in that aspect, saying, oh, they're going to shut them down, laying 42.5. I'd much rather take the total.
Now, Joe, let me ask you this question about James Franklin. Do you like when he comes out of the tunnel and interlocks with the players?
I don't have a problem.
I have a problem with it.
Why?
Because I don't like it. Does he think he's playing on the opening kickoff? Does he want to get a handoff at that point?
I mean, he's involved in the program. Here's the problem with James Franklin.
Why do coaches even run out with the football team? Like Andy Reid doesn't run out with the Chiefs.
Yeah, but it's the NFL. This is college kids.
What about college basketball? Do those
they're
guys
like
run
a
out
father figure. Well, they used to be like a father figuring. Now the kids are making more than the coach.
Business. How about this? Hawaii, Arizona. Hawaii coming to the mainland this time. They're getting 16.5 points at most outlets and a 53.5. Looking at Hawaii, the Rainbow Warriors 1-0 in the season, taking on Arizona. Any chance for an upset bid? They're right. They played one game already, Joe.
I like the fact that they've played one game, and Noah Fafita and that offense were completely inconsistent as it related to the passing attack. Obviously, Ted McMillan now with the Carolina Panthers. But again, that 53.5, I think, is a little bit light. You have above average, at least from what we saw.
Alejandro Thielen, Joe?
Yeah, he was on one leg, but the kid stepped up, 210 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. I'm inclined. I mean, I would take the points. You know, with the underdog,
Joe, from game 1 to game 2.
53.5 to me is light for both of these quarterbacks.
Firing it around the atmosphere.
Tucson's going to be hot.
Alejandro, get it together. Back there, lefty quarterback.
Yeah.
I'm a lefty. You a lefty or no?
I'm a lefty.
All right, there we go.
Two lefties.
Two lefts.
Smart.
Make a right.
Above average.
Here as we get going. And by the way, hour number 2 is coming up. We are 1 hour away from kickoff in the shoe. It's Texas, it's Ohio State. We're hitting Alabama, Florida State, LSU, Clemson, people. Joe Lisi, Donnie Rightside. The place to be is on the SportsGrid Network. Come on back.
First time on a casino floor and feeling a little overwhelmed? Well, here's a tip. Lots of machines have a free demo mode you can try for practice. So give those slots a spin in practice mode before you start putting down some real cash. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Hopefully starting in 2027, where I think the schedule could just completely get blown up, which would be so exciting for the fans, the players. So there's interesting things that I've heard that That would be like one of the first things that could say that people are talking about, and that things could really get changed up a little bit.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
It's good news, bad news, but it's the same problem when they created this problem come draft day, right? We all knew you got too many quarterbacks. It's as simple as that. Unless one guy absolutely stinks, then you still have too many quarterbacks because you still got Deshaun Watson, who's eligible to come off the IR this season if they really want to go down that road again.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid. This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay.
I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.